Hello everyone, this is Melissa with Unpacked with Overcomer Ministries, and we are here in Springfield at the Nathaniel Green Botanical Gardens today. It's a real pretty time of year if you get a chance to come by. Everything is blooming, there's all kinds of beautiful flowers. Today we are here with Patience Davis, and she wants to tell us her story of survival. God rescued her from sex trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And so she has a very interesting story, and you know, we've all been through some things, and a lot of people just want to share their stories so that they can be a positive influence on others and let them know that they can do it. You can come through it. You get the right help, and you will be able to come through it. So let's listen to Patient's story, and I think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So let's start. So your mom wasn't around, and you were raised by your grandparents.
Yes.
So let's go back to how young were you at that time?
So my grandma was a single mom for a long time. She had 5 kids, and the youngest one the only son went with his dad. And she had 4 daughters, and my mom was the oldest one. And my whole family has kind of struggled with addiction for a lot of years.
Does this include your grandma?
No.
Okay.
My grandma's always stayed strong and just worked so hard and just really tried to, And so when my mom got pregnant with me, my grandma had told me that my mom asked to live with my grandma, and my grandma said, well, if you stay sober, then you can stay here with the baby, right? Well, when I was born, my mom didn't stay sober, and she would leave and come back and stuff, and so my grandma kind of got stuck with me. She didn't want to raise me, but she kind of stepped up into that role and told my mom, like, you can't take Patience, Yeah.
So where were you? Like Houston?
No, I was born in Blue Springs, Missouri.
Okay.
In Kansas City.
Okay.
Yes.
And now while your mom was pregnant, did she use?
Yes.
Okay, so were you born addicted?
I don't know that. My family didn't tell me that, but I was born premature and like 5 pounds. My grandma said my head was so tiny. That's what she would say. Yeah. So, so my grandma just, my mom was there in the beginning for a little bit, but she started leaving. And
what about Dad?
My dad was unknown.
Okay.
My birth certificate does not have a father on it.
Do you ever wonder?
I actually did find out who my dad was.
Oh, did you?
Yes. When I got rescued and taken to the ministry in probably 2018 or 19, I found out who he was. I took ancestry DNA testing just to see. Because there were a few options, and I just wanted to know who it was for sure. And so I did that, and I found all these people I was like connected to with DNA or whatever. And so with the last name of this guy that I knew from Kansas City. And so I started messaging those people, and they started telling me all these things. Well, then during that time, I had somebody message me on Facebook saying, hey, I think you're my sister. And I was like, oh yeah? And so like I sent, hey, is this all correct for your family line? And he was like, yes. I'm like, you're my brother.
Oh, wow.
It was so cool.
Oh, wow.
And so then I found out he has the same dad as me, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, is there a relationship there with the dad, or
no.
Okay.
My real father is still struggling in addiction in Kansas City, and I've talked to him a few times, but we don't really have a close relationship or anything. Me and my brother do, though. I can talk to him all the time. It's been really great.
That's neat.
Yeah.
That had to be neat to get to know each other.
Oh, gosh, yeah. He's like the male version of me, but like way cooler.
Yeah.
He's so cool. I love him. He's my hype man for sure.
Yeah. So let's go back to, what was it? Was your grandma religious?
Not really. Not really. I think she believes, but it was never we didn't go to church. We didn't really talk about it, so I didn't really know anything about religion or Jesus or anything like that. when I was 5, she met a farmer from Kansas, and they got
Where
married.
at in Kansas?
Easton. Well, Leavenworth, but like out in the country.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I live in Kansas.
Oh, yeah?
But yeah.
You currently live in Kansas?
Yeah, it's like 2 hours to get here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's right over the river up north, and
Mm-hmm.
it's Leavenworth, Kansas. You know where the prison is, federal prison?
Mm-hmm. I've heard of it. I haven't actually been up there.
Mhm.
Haven't been in there either.
Right? When I first moved there, I was like, Grandma, look, the White House, because it was so big, you know? I had no idea. She's like, yeah.
So what was it like? Were you the only child?
Yes.
Okay, so what was it like with your grandma raising you? Just
Well,
like with your mom, you know, if like she was your mom, pretty much.
yeah, but I also knew my mom was my mom.
Mhm.
And so, like, I remember as a kid telling Grandma, like, I miss my mommy, you know, and stuff like that. And when we moved to Kansas, her and my grandpa, Butch, my step-grandpa, you know, they raised me the whole time. And my mom would come around sometimes, like, just randomly show up or randomly call and then disappear for months. So that was really hard for me because I would just bawl when she would leave and stuff. And then she would take me with her sometimes in Kansas City and kind of expose me to the people she was around and kind of the lifestyle she lived. And so I knew she was always struggled with addiction, but I just didn't really.
How old were you at that time?
She would take me places like before I was 5, and then because I remember a lot of things, but then after we moved to Kansas, she only showed up a few times and would take me sometimes. And that was, yeah.
So as a younger girl, what went through your mind when she would leave and didn't take you? Or when she
I was
wouldn't
devastated.
come back for, did you think it was you?
Yes. Because I remember, like, one time she was at my grandparents' house, and I remember trying to sleep in bed with her, and I remember waking up, she wasn't really sleeping, she was on the side of the bed, and then I remember waking up, and she was just gone. Her shoes were still there, like, she just had left. And I hadn't seen her for I don't know how long after that, and there was no way to get a hold of her, really, you know what I mean? So, like, it just devastated me.
Yeah.
And then sometimes she would call and say, hey, baby, I'm on my way, and she would never show up, so it, like, really just broke my little heart, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So take me to your teenage years.
Oh, my. Yeah, so probably there was a time, probably in middle school, grade school, middle school, during that time my mom just disappeared for years. Like, no phone call, no nothing for years. So we didn't know if she was dead or anything. We didn't know anything. And so, like, when I was 14, like, I was against drugs so hard when I was young. And then people in school started, like, smoking weed and drinking,
Mm-hmm.
and it just broke my little heart because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so against this.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was 14 years old, I got into my first, it was like a pretty well serious relationship. I was a freshman and he was a senior, and he was like the bad boy of the school because my school was like a country little school, and he had tattoos and drove a Monte Carlo, and he like smoked weed and did all this. And I was just really naive, and I started, you know, hanging out with him and his friends and started drinking and smoking weed, and so that kind of led me that way. And my grandma was like, you cannot be with this guy, and I was like, I'm going to no matter what you say. So I kind of fell into the rebellious side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my permit at 14 because in the country out there you can get like a permit to drive around.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake probably because I got my first car when I was 14, and I kind of just, so I was able to go do whatever I kind of wanted to, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
listen to my grandparents at all. I did what I wanted to, and so that caused us to have a really bad relationship back then. And my grandpa he's just like a farmer that just works so hard, and he doesn't
Kind of rough around the edges.
yeah. And so me and him really got bad because I don't know why I did that. I just didn't.
And you know, I think a lot of times, sometimes adults don't know how to communicate or to deal with younger people,
Yeah.
especially maybe his generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because his generation was, you do what you're told and you don't say anything about it.
Yes.
You're seen, not heard.
Right. And my grandpa's side of the family, they haven't struggled with drugs or anything. So this was my grandma's family coming into my grandpa's life kind of, I don't know, I guess it would be hard for him because all this stuff and drama, and he probably didn't know how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but my grandma did try to put me into counseling when I was young, but that didn't really work out very well. I went through a lot of counselors, and I mean, I've had counselors tell me, I don't know how to help you, and like, it was just like a terrible thing. But my grandma actually really did try to get me some help.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it just didn't work.
So, take us to where your mom came and you went back to Kansas City with her?
So my mom, I think I was about 16, because I remember my grandma calling me. I like ran out of gas on the side of the road at this time, and my grandma called me. She's like, you'll never guess who just walked in the door. And I said, who? She's like, your mom. And I just started bawling. I'm like, I'll be there as soon as I can. So I went there, and I was like just blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, my mom is here.
I can imagine that being a teenager.
Yeah, I was kind of...
You just longed to have that love and closeness with your mom.
And I noticed when I saw my mom's face, she looked older and kind of different. And I was like, wow, And she was just like, oh my gosh, hi, And I was like, hi, Mom. And like, I don't know, it was kind of... I just felt kind of, not weird, but like on...
Something was different.
Guard or like, like, I don't know. And at that point, I knew she was using, like, it's been a normal thing my whole life. So at this point, I wasn't mad that she was using. I was just glad she came back.
Right.
So my grandma was a realtor, so my mom came into some money and wanted to buy a house. So that's really kind of the reason why she came back.
Mm-hmm.
So then she bought a house in Independence, Missouri. And then when I graduated high school and stuff, I've always had this feeling of like, I know there's a bigger, better life out here than this. Like, there has to be.
Than Leavenworth.
Than just, I don't know. Than just this, I don't know. I've always had this vision of like just this awesome, fulfilled life.
I think all little girls grow up with that.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. And so I was determined to chase it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this sounds ridiculous, but I was like, well, I'm going to go to LA and be an actress. So I packed up my car with coolers and followed a paper map all the way to LA.
A paper map? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Do you know what that is, Kate? Okay.
So like, we have family in Vegas, and so like I tried to drive to Vegas to spend the night there, and then went on to LA. And
I lived there for probably a year. I lived in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So how long were you in LA? Were you by yourself in LA?
No, I moved in with a boyfriend.
So did you know him when you got to LA?
I knew his brother through Leavenworth.
So you knew he was there already when you went to LA?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I was there for only a few months because like I got into makeup school and stuff, only for a couple weeks though, because we got kicked out of the place we were staying and we started living in my car for a couple weeks. And I was working as a CNA and he had a job, I don't know, but we looked at apartments and I was like, this is ridiculous, I'm like, I gotta go back home. So I went back to Springfield, lived with my uncle for a month, got an apartment, got a new car, and just started working, and kind of things just started getting worse at that point just in life. I moved in with my cousin. She was in college in Springfield, so I moved in with her, roommated with her for a while. And I just kind of got around some bad people in Springfield, I guess. I was so naive. I had no idea, I was just think everybody's just too nice, and I'm very trusting.
I am that way too, and I've learned the hard way to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too. So some things had happened. So one day I just packed up my car with as much as I could get in and just drove home to Grandma. And so at that point, when I was living with Grandma, I felt like this darkness coming over me, and I had no idea what it was. But I just remember looking out my grandma's window at night one night, and I'm just like, something evil is like coming for me. That's how I feel. And I told my grandma that, and she was like, you're depressed, let's get you help. So we got into this program in Independence. So I was there for about a month. So then after that, I got into outpatient. And at that point, I was just, like, smoking a lot of weed, drinking, stuff like that. I was just, like, super depressed. And so my mom lived in Independence.
Do you think that's what it was?
Depression? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because she knew I was brokenhearted from my mom my whole entire life. So she's been trying to help me heal from that. And my grandma's always wanted me just to be better and be the best I can because she loves me. And she's seen me hurt my whole life, so I know she just wants me to be healthy and happy.
And depression is a hard thing for people to understand if they don't. Yeah. Because you look all right.
Yeah.
But inside,
and
you just can't come out of it.
Yeah.
And you don't know why. You don't know why you're depressed. You don't know why you can't come out of it.
And it's not just like a sadness. It's like a darkness that consumes your whole body, your soul, your spirit, your mind.
And it's everything.
Yeah. And so that's been a really hard thing for me. But, so I was going into outpatient, so a couple times a week. So I'd go there and then stop by my mom's house, and see her. And so that's when I started using meth.
I've never used drugs, but I've heard that meth is like evil.
It is. So like, my mom had told me, oh, if you ever want it, just come to me, so I know what you're getting, Mom. I'm like, oh, I just want to lose some weight. This was like a normal thing in my life. Like and so I was like, oh, I just want to lose some weight for a little bit. I had no idea anything about this drug or anything about any of that lifestyle.
Plus, it was your mom.
Yeah, so I thought I was safe, you know what I mean? So I started using, and I worked as a CNA. I had like a 3-day weekend off, so I was just like, I'm just going to go to my mom's house for the weekend,
So is it like shooting it up?
No, I didn't know. I hadn't.
Smoking it?
Not at that point. I wasn't shooting up because I didn't do that. Like she taught me how to smoke it and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was doing to begin with. And that 3-day weekend turned into I was still awake, still hadn't showered, and still high, and I had to go to work the next day. So I quit my job. I didn't go back. And I didn't go back to grandma's.
So it just keeps you up like that?
Yes.
Wow.
Like in the beginning of getting high on that, like it feels really great. You feel like you have a personality. You feel like you can talk. You feel like you're just on cloud nine. You feel like you're on vacation. Like it's so whatever. But then it quickly turns into very evil and miserable. So yeah, in the beginning, like I was just using. I was having a blast, I thought, and I just, was there. And then that's when things started slowly, kind of fast though, but kind of started getting a little bit worse at a time in that situation.
So take us through that kind of
step
so
by step. Like I was at my mom's, I had my car, which my car, I had a bank loan on it, so I got to meet some of her people, her friends or whatever.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 20.
Okay.
Probably had just turned, I remember it was New Year's Eve. I remember that. So I probably just turned, my birthday's in May, so, so I,
May what?
21st.
Oh, mine's May 12th.
Oh yeah. That's cool.
The 18th. Oh, really?
That's fun. So I just thought, like, I was just, getting high and having fun, and I was like, oh, I have my mom, I have a family, and she had a boyfriend. She also has a husband, but I don't know, in the drug world, it's like everything, just nothing makes sense, right? And so, like, her boyfriend was there all the time. I'm like, hey, it's your new stepdaughter. I was just like this young, naive country girl that's just like, what's up, everybody, And so things started getting really weird. I had noticed, like, a lot of men just started coming around and, like, hanging out and, like, watching me and, like, kind of, like, I don't know. It's just really, but I just thought, oh, there's just friends.
And it wasn't like that before? Like, it just, Like, how long were you here before that started? Were you there?
At my mom's?
Yeah.
I don't know, because she introduced me to somebody, and I ran around with him for a while until that got very uncomfortable and bad. And so then I was back at my mom's, and as I was there, just people just started coming around. I mean, she had people that came around anyway, but like one day I was sitting in her living room and like the whole room was full of men, and I was just like, what's up? You know, I just thought, I don't know. I thought it was odd, and I kind of felt uncomfortable, but then like, so when men would come around or like hang out at night, and I was kind of nervous and stuff, I was like, this is uncomfortable for me. And like, or he's being weird or he's trying to do something, I like would go to my mom and be like, Mom, like, and she like didn't do anything about it. So I was just like, okay, maybe I'm not.
What did she say?
She didn't.
Did she say anything? Like,
no, she was just like,
oh, it's it's not really.
I'm like, this dude's making me feel weird, you know, and she's just like, whatever. But then I started noticing some things, like, so I knew nothing about drugs, like hard drugs like that, and I would notice, so they would give me drugs, like they got me really addicted to the good stuff, and then like they would start putting things in my drugs to make me crazy, or a different type of drug to like put me to sleep and stuff. And I started noticing these things, and I was like, oh my gosh. And like my body was all bruised up, and my arms were all bruised up, and I was just like, I started losing my mind, and I was like, what's going on?
So you would just like wake up from like them putting you to sleep, and you would be bruised up?
Yeah. And I asked my mom, why do I have all these bruises on me, on my legs, up and down? And she's like, oh, just my bruises tell a story. And my mom was really, mentally ill, and she can be really out there, and it can be really scary. And she does like witchcraft and like curses and just weird stuff like that.
And you have no recollection of anything when you were out of it and woke up with bruises?
I remember a few times when I couldn't move my body, but like you know when you pass out and like you can hear someone's voice from afar kind of, and it kind of gets louder and louder. So like that's how it was kind of, and I would try to like wake myself up from that, but I would hear like her boyfriend like would be messing with my face. I remember like opening my eyes, and he would just be laughing at me, and I'd just fall back to sleep. Or like I heard at my 21st birthday, I heard like a man talking in the other room, like, oh, about my body and stuff, and I just would fall back asleep. So like, but that was before. So in the beginning, or after, so like in the beginning I started noticing these things, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm just going crazy, right? And so I stopped using for a few days, and to see if I was crazy. But then like, so one night I had like this bag of drugs that I was keeping, because like they started calling it like sleep wars, like they like were really messing with my mind too. And so I was afraid to fall asleep, so I started running at the first sign of danger. Like I started running out and started trying to find somewhere safe, but nowhere was safe in that town, because like there was a whole ring of people, and like everybody knew what was going on. So if I ran over to, plus I only knew the people my mom introduced me to. So if I felt danger at my mom's, I would run over to this house. Felt danger there, run over here, end up back at my mom's. So like, yeah, I don't know, they call it sleep wars and stuff, just messing with me. And so I don't know, I just tried to run away all the time.
Can't imagine how it would feel. I mean, how you'd feel trapped.
It was really scary, because my mom was really out there and started doing the weird stuff. And
did you ever reach out to your grandma at this point? Or try to get authorities, or?
Oh no, I couldn't do. So like I would run down to the payphone sometimes and call grandma and be like, I need help. And she tried to save me, I think twice. But at that point I was deeper into it, so there really was she couldn't save me because it was too close. I don't know. And the authorities, I don't trust them in Independence, because they have their own group of cops and judges and stuff that are in trafficking, and my mom had her own like personal, I don't know, connections or whatever. So like one day, so they use like, I don't know, weird stuff to poison me, cockroach poisoning, fish tank water.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they were just really trying to just destroy me, make me lose my mind, dope me up so no one believes me.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's husband was like, well, that's why they call it trafficking, because they sell their own people and you're stuck in it. And he'd say, what's a poor little girl to do when no one believes her?
Mocking you?
Yes. Like,
so
just dope her up and make her look crazy so no one believes
Is that when it hit you, what was going on?
Oh, yeah. So I started, like, trying to get evidence. I started writing everything down, and I started collecting all these things. Like, found a bunch of pills in her. I just started collecting and trying to record things when I still had a phone. And then you fall asleep or any time and everything's gone. I mean, they take everything from you.
Mm-hmm.
So I had nothing. But I was trying to prove that this was happening to me, but they weren't going to let that happen.
So with all that going on, it seems like there was still like in you, there's a strong,
like a will to fight.
Yes.
Yeah. And I didn't really, because I was like, I gotta survive. I don't know what I thought, but I was just like, I gotta run. Let's see. Yeah, like, so I was telling you, like, with the cockroach poisoning and I don't know, they just did weird stuff just to torture me. Like one day we all got into a fight, and my stepdad kind of like pulled my hair all the way to the ground, and so I just started screaming. And when I started screaming, like, this stuff was coming up, and like my tears were sticky, and like I was choking on like this stuff. And my mom was like, shut up. And I went outside into the yard, and I was like, help me, somebody help me. And she like called somebody, and these like cops came in, threw me on the ground, put me in handcuffs, and it was just like, no one's here to save you. And so yeah, and then they sent me off into an ambulance, and then the hospitals didn't even help me. The hospitals sent me right back in a taxi cab without offering me any type of help, right back to my mom's house every time. So I have felt like, oh my God, this whole city, there's no way out of this.
Did you ever wake up in a different place that you didn't know where you were? Because when we hear, like, I know nothing of sex trafficking. I just hear about it,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's out there. But, you know, when we see shows or whatever, it's like they send you out to the streets and, like, a prostitute. And, you know, they sell you to this person or sell you to that person.
Yeah. So it wasn't really like that for me. Like, they never told me, hey, you're going to do this. It was always like they were going to torture me torture me and drive me insane and drug me and like put me to sleep. So like, so people started coming over, and her boyfriend at the time, like, I thought her boyfriend was my protector, because my mom was going really crazy, and she was like, you know, I know you're not my daughter, and like name all these people off that she thought I was like a different person. Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, I'm your daughter, please, you know. So I was trying to get away from my mom, but so I thought I was going with him. I thought he was protecting me. I thought he was my actual dad at this time. So I began to trust him and like really like have love for him I thought he was my dad, you know. I was like, oh my gosh, he's protecting me. Well, then he disappeared for a while. I didn't know what happened. I thought, they made me think like they killed him or something. So I was like running through the town like, where are you and stuff. And that's when my mom had moved me into a basement in a different house down the street. So I was with this guy, and I was staying there, and like there was lights and stuff in the like studio lights, and it was just weird. Mm-hmm. And so then that's when it got worse. I started noticing, like, I knew every night when I go to sleep, this is what's going to happen. And so I stopped kind of fighting, except I was so exhausted. I didn't really know where to go, what to do.
I can imagine how.
And if you run over here to my mom's, it's not safe. And then you run over, so I just was like, okay. And that's, so the one day he I don't know if I should say his name.
I wouldn't say his name.
Okay, I didn't mean to. Okay.
I didn't hear a name.
Okay.
You just said he.
Okay, so he, come to the basement.
Your mom's boyfriend?
My mom's boyfriend. I'd come to the basement and he took me out of there. And then we lived under a bridge for a few weeks. And I thought, oh, I'm getting better. Like, this isn't happening. I can notice it's not happening. My body's not hurting. My bruises are going away. So I thought, I'm safe now, right? Well, then he was like, oh, we're moving into this place. And we moved into a basement down the road. And that's when it started getting bad. That's when I started shooting up and stuff. But I had no idea what I was doing. So he was doing it to me.
What was he telling you it was?
Oh, he'd say it was.
Tell you it was the drug or whatever it was.
But
this will make you forget stuff, or did he ever?
No. So like I could tell the difference between, oh, this is meth, and oh no, I just got something that isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like doped up in that basement for months, like a few months. Like that's when it got really bad, and
you couldn't leave the basement?
I did leave the basement, but like I would go from the basement to my mom's, trying to be safe, and like I always wound up back at either place. But so then at that point I was really small, really malnourished because I didn't eat,
mm-hmm.
and I only ate like what they would give me, which was unsafe. And then like I didn't really shower, and so unless my mom would give me some shampoo or something, but then you couldn't trust anything from her because like the shampoo that she would give me like would burn my hair off, and I don't know, it's just crazy. So I was going insane, and I was
you were pretty much being tortured.
Yes. And
in this basement.
Yes.
By people you knew.
Yes.
And some people you knew.
So like,
and anytime you tried to get out,
there was no way out.
There's nowhere you could go,
and
because people don't understand. They're like, why don't you just
leave?
Get out?
There's nowhere to leave. I had what are they called? Blisters
mm-hmm.
on my toes that were like this big from walking the city. I would walk with like a suitcase or like a cart, like I'm getting out of here. There was nowhere to go. There was nowhere safe to go. Because everywhere I went to was one of my mom's people. And I'd be like, oh no, this is dangerous. So back to my mom's. So I just really got to learn how to fight that. And like, and he drove a bicycle and had a cart on it, and he'd put me in the back of the cart and just drive around town, and like men would come up and be like, hey, you want some dope or whatever? Yeah, like, blah, blah, and like they would talk whatever, and then like I just knew, like that's when at the end of the day, because I would wake up and just my body would hurt so terribly bad, and it was awful, but so I just started to try my hardest to fight, like
sleeping, I would imagine. Sleeping, I would imagine.
Fight sleeping, yeah. But then, like, when you think you're getting drugs that are gonna keep you awake, and then they give you something, and it's just bad. I don't know.
Because they would violate you when you were sleeping,
mm-hmm.
and that's how you'd wake up
mm-hmm.
with the bruises, and you're like, where'd these bruises come from?
And then when I started calling them out, like, my mom would say, so everything's reversed in that world. Like, everything's reverse psychology, and no one speaks straight, no one speaks the truth, but they will speak the truth in an opposite way. I know it's really confusing, but like my mom would say, I don't believe in sex trafficking, and I'm not selling my daughter, and they're doing it to me, and like all this stuff. So like everybody knew I knew, and everybody knew what was going on. It was just crazy.
So what was, do you think, the lowest you got before help came along? Because I know help came along
mm-hmm.
eventually.
The lowest.
And take us from your lowest to how you started to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
So, okay, so like, I remember when I was in the basement, he would take the needles, dirty needles, used needles that were in the trash on the floor. At this point, I wanted to die, okay? So I didn't care what was in the syringe. I didn't care anymore. I was just like, give it to me, you know? And he was hurting me at that point doing it. So I just started doing it myself. And so I remember just like, I don't care. And
he would hurt you trying to get you the drug.
Blew my veins up, missed on purpose and stuff. And I remember it was from a dirty needle, and as soon as he did it, my arm started swelling up so bad. And then after a few days, it was huge. It was humongous. It hurt so bad, worst pain in my life. And they finally took me to the hospital. And at this point, my arm was like so big. And I was tiny at this point. I was like a size 2 at this point. So it was huge and it hurt so bad. And they wheeled me into the hospital. And I remember just being out. They gave me morphine. I was out. And they were like, you were like minutes from like dying.
There's nobody in these hospitals that said, do you need help? Are you in danger? What can I do?
I do remember in that hospital, because I was there for about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But somebody was there with me all the time. His brother was there with me the whole time. And I remember one of the nurses or something was like...
Oh, you mean somebody from the...
Yeah. Stayed with me the whole time I was there, right? My
My
mom wasn't there all the time, but this guy was there all the time, just like right by my side. Like
that was part of the trafficking bit. Okay.
Because like I remember waking up and the nurse was like, someone's trying to hurt you. Like, and I remember this lady coming in and saying, oh, you got this house in Kansas City or this and blah, blah, blah. And so at that point I was a little bit sober and a couple weeks in, but your mind is still in that, the brainwashing that takes place is so consuming and intense, like you don't even know. And so my mom picked me up and I went back to the house because I thought, oh, everything's fine, you know. But so, and like they're very good at like acting fine for a second, and then in a split second everything can change and you're like, oh no, and like you're in danger and you're like, oh god, again, like oh my god. So after that I was like, oh my, I'm like, I need to get out of here. So I would go to the payphone at the gas station and be like, Grandma, I really need help. She's like, Patience, I can't help you. You're gonna have to save yourself. And I was like, ugh.
Did she realize what was going on?
At that time, she didn't. I don't think she really realized the trafficking was going on. I think she just thought I was just really going crazy and high with over there. So, yeah. And I didn't really know how to talk about anything at that point, right? So then she's like, well, my brother is coming to Kansas City. Maybe him and his wife can pick you up. So she gave me their number, and I called and I was like, can I come with you? And they just thought I was on drugs too. They're like, oh, are you ready? And I'm like, yes. So they picked me up. I went with them, and
the people that were keeping you didn't try to stop you?
No.
They weren't afraid that you would?
No. They always believed I would come back. Because my mom would use my love for her as a weapon, right? And they like a Stockholm syndrome type of thing. Like you love the person that's hurting you the most, right? So it was hard for me to emotionally break free from them because it wasn't just some random person that I didn't know was hurting me. So I was like, it was my mom.
It would be hard for you to actually turn,
right?
Get her in trouble or...
Yeah, and I didn't want to get them in trouble. I didn't know what to do. Like, I had lost my sense of reality, sense of identity, and everything. I didn't know the ground from the sky, you know what I mean? And I couldn't make a decision between a blue cup or a red cup. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I was so timid and so destroyed on every level, and I, like, became mute, and I was just, like, just a little, you know? And so when they had come to get me, they took me to like a hotel room, and I remember the bed was so huge and white, and I was just like, oh my God. I remember getting in the shower for the first time, and the water was just black. And I was like, oh my gosh. And they took me to a buffet, and I was just eating.
Were they shocked when they saw you?
Yes. And I remember getting in the car, and I was just, they weren't saying anything, and I was just like, I'm sorry if I stink. And they were like, it's okay, are you hungry? And I was like, yes. So they took me to a buffet, and I just stuffed my face, oh my gosh. And then they took me to their house somewhere in Missouri, and I started telling her what was going on. So then at that point, she was like blown away. She wanted me to get actual more help than what she could offer me, right? So we found a program in Kansas City for that situation, and I went there, and I was there for a month. I mean, it was a beautiful program. It was amazing, and that was the first time I ever opened a Bible. I had no idea. I didn't know the, Psalm 10, ... all that. I'm like, I didn't know how to read all that. Like, so that was the first time I opened the Bible, and I was like, wow, But my mind was still really in that place. Like, I didn't, And so me and one of the girls got to talking, and we got to, like, kind of, what is it called? Glorifying the high and the whatever, the life or whatever, or the whatever. And so we left. And we went to my mom's house. Mm. Because my mind kind of worked like, oh, I miss my mom, like, which makes no sense to the outside mind, right? But I was just like hoping it just wasn't going to be that. Like, I just missed my mom. And I wasn't ready to be off of the drugs at that point, I don't believe. But when I went back to my mom's, I did try to stay sober for a couple weeks, actually, and I did. But then at one point, I was just like, screw it.
And they weren't hurting you at this?
No, because my friend from the ministry was with me, which I feel so terribly bad about now. But she's doing amazing now. She's an amazing woman of God, has a family, and I'm so proud of that, because that really hurt my heart that I took her into that life. And they were fine when we were apart, but then they split us up. And I never seen her again. Mm. So after that, then it started happening again. Yeah. And so I've never seen her again, and I thought she was gone, but she's doing great now. So I'm like, oh, thank God. She got out of there too. So
yeah.
So after that, I was there for a while, and then it just kept getting worse and worse, and the torture stuff just got worse and worse, and people all over were just, it's like they were attempting murder on me, but they wouldn't come and kill me, and I would ask, why won't you just kill me? And I was told, well, because we won't do that. We like to watch it happen slow and torturous. Like, that it's just, but I still fought, and I still tried to stay alive. And then, let's see, when I knew, I just started coming to this realization of, like, I need to get out of here. And after my life was open to God, that's when it all changed for me, because I remember I got this big Bible from my great-grandma from my great-uncle's house, and I took it with me. And I remember just walking the streets with, like, no socks on. I was just walking holding this Bible, and I remember the song, and I never listened to Christian music until that point. I was like, the Lauren Daigle song, oh Lord, I know you hear my cry, your love is lifting me above all the lies. I just kept repeating that out loud. And there was this church in Independence that was, like, huge, and I, like, was just walking to all these churches, and I would sit at the churches at night and just, I'm like, for some reason I knew a church would save me or something. Mm-hmm. So I would just walk there, and I would go there, my feet were, like, frozen. I would just sit in the parking lot, because that's where I just felt safe. I don't know. And so then I called the people from the ministry in Kansas City, and I was like, I need help. They're like, oh, we'll get you to a detox or something. I'm like, no, never mind, because I was afraid of everything. Mm-hmm. Like, so if you take me to a building in Kansas City with all these people, I'm leaving, because I'm so afraid of everything and everybody. I just didn't feel safe anywhere. And I did go to jail for about a month. And when I was in that jail, I was like, but I was excited to go to jail actually, because I had food, water, safety, a bed.
I can imagine.
A shower.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, yes, like I'm fine. But also I knew I had to get out somehow. And so that's when I called, and they were after that, and they were like, oh, we can't, or detox. And I'm like, no, just forget it. And then that was like the last night. A lot of crazy things happened, a lot of bad things happened, and I was just sitting there in like a shed. It was so cold.
Outside of jail?
Yes, this was after jail. And I was just walking up and down the street, and I was looking at my mom's house, because my mom's house turned into this terrible, disastrous, no electricity, no water, just, it's like all their stuff was slowly moved out, and all my stuff looked like it was all my stuff, and it was just looked like a trap house of patience. And it was just, she did things to like do curses and stuff like that. And so I was just staring at the house in complete awe, and I was like, what has happened? And this guy rolls on his bike, and I'm like, do you think that I deserve to find a life? And he's
just
like,
this random guy?
well, I knew him.
Oh, okay.
Everybody knows everybody.
Okay.
And he's like, well, yeah, everyone does. He's like, I have a noose in my bedroom where you can use my mom's phone. And I was like, okay, I'll use your phone. So I used his phone, and I called the woman from the ministry. And she's like, where have you been? I've been looking for you everywhere.
Okay, I'm confused. You used I've got a noose in my bedroom?
Yes. So you can either kill yourself, or you can go try to find help.
Okay.
Right?
You. Yeah.
So I chose to call. And because I'm like, you know what? I want to go find a life no matter how hard it is, and whether it's just me living in a house in the woods, just me and Jesus for the rest of my life. I don't care. I need to get out of here. I want to find a life. So I called, and the lady from the ministry was like, where are you at? I've been looking for you everywhere. And I'm like, I'll be at my mom's in 5 minutes. So I walked to my mom's. She wasn't there yet. I didn't have any clothes. I just had the clothes on my body. I like dumped all these like pens and pencils in this bag, because I love to write, and because writing poems and stuff was the only way I could get out what was happening out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all I had. And she picked me up, and they...
Was this on time?
No.
Okay.
This was a ministry in Kansas City.
Okay.
So she took me to her house, and she said, if you're gone in the morning, I know what that means. And I found 2 ministries. You have one in St. Louis and one in Mountain Grove, Missouri. And I'm like, what's Mountain Grove, She's like, it's a little, country town, like southern Missouri. These people are great, on-time ministry, I'm like, okay. And so we had a phone interview with the owners of On-Time Ministry, and they love me, I guess, and they're like, come on. And so she took me to meet them halfway, and I was like going to a place I never knew existed with people I didn't know who they were, which was scary for me, because going like 4 or 5 hours away, you can't really run back very easily 5 hours away. So I was really kind of nervous, but I knew I had to do something. I knew it was time. Like if you're in danger, you can't just really walk 5 hours.
I guess when you're ready, when you go somewhere that you're not going to be able to tuck tail and run back.
Which was good for me, because I was so used to any type of uncomfortability, I just run. And so I knew, I'm like, okay, I had to. They picked me up in this like old Cadillac, and I remember sitting in the seats, and I was like, oh my gosh, the back seat of that Cadillac was so comfortable. They bought me coffee, cigarettes, and like a Reese's, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm safe. They were so nice and so loving. And then I got to the ministry house, and I was like, where am I at? And I was like, okay, here we are. And I walked in, and they were just so loving and kind, and like, oh, hi, and I was just felt so like, oh my gosh. And they were like, you can pick your own bedroom, and I was like, what? Like, I get my own bed, my own bedroom? Like, I was so blown away. And I remember my house mom was like, yeah, there's a big kitchen. They're like, you can cook a cheeseburger at 3 a.m. if you want. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool.
They were probably encouraging you to at this point.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, right? And like all the sisters were there, and I was really timid and nervous at this point, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I remember laying in that bed just detoxing for like a week straight, and I heard like all their voices laughing in the morning, and I was just really nervous. And so when I woke up, I told my household, I'm like, I want to go back. And she's like, I really hope you don't. We're gonna go to like Winter Jam this Friday. I hope you just wait it out. You won't regret it. And I'm like, okay. So I went to Winter Jam, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm staying. Like, I
love Winter Jam.
Me too. I was like, that was the first time I've ever experienced like that kind of thing, and like I was like, I felt the presence of God, and I was like, and my sisters were amazing. Everybody was so loving, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm staying. And I stayed there for 2 years. Mm-hmm.
So, at what point was it that you, like, gave yourself to God? Gave your life to God?
So in the ministry, like, they didn't force Jesus on you. If you didn't want to go to church, you didn't have to go, right? And they didn't force you, but... So I got baptized on February 14th, Valentine's Day, and I was given a Bible by one of my sisters. And so in the ministry, like the first 4 months, you just heal, you just relax, you just kind of do, like volunteers would come and hang out with us, and we kind of just got back to normal mind and stuff, and just heal, which I really loved that because I needed that so bad. Just to be loved on and just relax. Like there's nowhere to go, there's nowhere you have to be, just...
You can go to sleep at night.
Which was a huge deal for me, because I'm like, wow, this is what it's like to go to sleep every night? What?
Mm-hmm. On purpose.
On purpose and without danger. Like, it was so comforting. So I just decked out my whole bedroom, like, because all the darkness in my mind and things, like, I was trying so hard to change everything, and so I just decked out my bedroom and Jesus stuff and bright colors, and I was just a positivity everywhere, you know? And so that was really fun to do that. And so in those 4 months, I just started picking up my Bible, and I just started reading it for myself. Like, I read the whole New Testament, journaling, highlighting, writing notes, just really getting to know the Lord. And then in my bedroom was like my sanctuary. So like I went and like at night I would just go in there and light my candles, turn my lights off, turn some lights on, and just worship music and just be with the Lord. And that was where my heart completely changed, and like healing started to take place. And it was very up and down, like the pain of healing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a painless, oh, I'm healed. It's like, no, you got to feel and deal and let the Lord come into that. And
I mean, he can just be like, everything's hunky-dory. But there's just something about when you work for something, when you put that effort in, knowing that he's there with you, but you still got to put the effort in.
Yeah.
It makes you appreciate it so much
because, and it got me to really know who the Lord was, and that intimacy with the Lord, like, that's when it happened, was because, like, you can be on cloud 9 and be like, you know, woo, like, this is amazing, but the real intimacy comes in the darkness with the Lord, because when you are broken and you're, and all of these things, like, and you meet, the Lord meets you right where you are, and it sits with you and loves on you and stuff. And that is where I became very intimate with the Lord, because in the darkness and in the healing, in the bawling, in the on my face, and the agony and the pain, like, because he was right there with me through that. He didn't just snap it away from me, because if he did that, I wouldn't have learned what I've learned. You know what I mean? So yeah, and then I just like become on fire, and I was like just on cloud 9, you know. But then as a new believer, that's kind of what happens, right? You're just like on cloud 9, nothing can go wrong. You're just like, this is awesome. You got the world by, you know, you're going, right?
And then life kind of happens.
And then it goes like this, and you're like, what the
Wait a second.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus, where are you at? You know?
Yeah.
But, you know, so through that, I've learned about the Lord because first comes the high, and then comes the reality of the warfare. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I was in the ministry for 2 years, and the ministry was shutting down, going through a lot of things. All the girls were gone. It was me and one other girl left. Because I was determined to stay until the Lord told me where to go. Because I'm like, I'm not leaving until you tell me where to go.
I love your house mom, by the way.
Which one we had two?
Teresa.
Teresa? Oh, yeah. I
I
know.
love her.
I know. She was amazing. She is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. After the ministry, I had my own house and all this stuff, but then I messed up immediately. And so I needed help, and I lost my house, lost all the money. I had relapsed. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? So my brother put me in a hotel room because I had nowhere to go. And I was like, Lord, if you are real, you are going to have to save me again. And so then I moved in with a family that I met through the ministry, lived with them for 2 years. And that was really awesome. They were really great. I learned a lot there. They were really strict in a lot of ways, which is good. But I really had to learn. I was like, okay, I gotta be obedient. I gotta do this. And I really got a lot of things together in that time and stuff.
You're working?
Yes.
Have your own spot?
I've been in my own place for the last, I don't know if it's been 2.5, 3, 2 years, 3 years maybe, somewhere around there. So in Mountain Grove and working and church and stuff. And being on my own has been the main thing, that's the main season where I've learned the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me one time when I went through my divorce years ago that stay single for 6 months. Make it your goal. Give yourself 6 months to just learn yourself. Learn how to be by yourself. Learn how to like yourself. Just learn yourself.
Yes.
Just give it 6 months. And I did. And I ended up staying single for almost 10 years.
Oh my.
Yeah. Don't jump from one relationship right to another one. Just give yourself time. And
Yeah.
But so do you do anything in the ministry now, or
Like in on-time ministry?
just any ministry at all?
Well, I don't know.
Didn't you do, I saw you did some kind of a craft thing?
Oh, yeah, that was for a ministry in Springfield, Artists Against Trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And they use, poems and art from survivors and to kind of display that.
Okay.
So they had me just teach an art class. So that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So if opportunities come, then yeah, I love to work in ministry and stuff. I just haven't. I feel like I've been so, being on my own has been a roller coaster because I've made a lot of mistakes and I've had to rise up and come back multiple times, and that has taught me a lot of things about myself. So I feel like I've kind of gotten lost in that a little bit. So I feel like now I'm starting to finally come into myself and really be confident as a woman of God, and kind of get to know who I am and what I like to do and kind of trust life again. And so now I'm just I'm really still trying to find out where I belong,
Purpose.
Yeah.
He saved you from all this.
Yeah.
And he's getting you somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just where is it?
Right, I know. I have felt that way for a long time.
Yeah.
But the healing process has been so long and so up and down.
And that it is, for those out there that are going through it, I imagine it is going to be a long process. It's not going to be something that's going to happen just like that. You're going to make mistakes more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
God's not going to just drop you after one mistake and say that's it.
Yeah.
He'll be there waiting for you to come back.
Yes, and that's happened to me every single time. And that because I used to just run, and I'd be like, well, how could you even love me after you saved me, and then I went and broke myself again and made a mistake against you? And that kept me in shame. But like each time at the bottom again, God just loved me so gently. And that's what my heart needs, is gentle love. And that's what the Lord has given me. And every time He's just provided, and He's just kept me alive and kept me going. And so through my mistakes and my downfalls, I mean, I don't regret them at all, because I had a lot of learning to do and a lot of maturing to do. And finding out who the Lord really is, and how His love for me is so real, and what that really means, and who I am in Him. So like all those mistakes and downfalls and stuff, rebuilding back up and learning, that's been the most important part of my recovery and journey, is that it's been hard, but I wouldn't change it.
Yeah. I mean, God is so big, and He's so amazing, but in all of that, He's still so personal.
Yes.
And He just wants, He wants to be with you.
Yes.
You know.
And He loves
that relationship. Yeah.
I learned what true love really is. Like, I can be this hot mess, terrible, and just making mistakes, but like He still loves me.
Yeah. And He knows your heart.
Exactly.
He knows you're not out there, oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do something wrong today because I can.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
He knows your heart.
Yeah. And so that's made me love myself more. It's how God has loved me. Because, I've thought to myself, well, how can I just hatred, like how can I do this and mess up? And God's like, we live in this sinful world. Like, you're never going to be perfect, but I'm always here. Like, you don't have to earn my love. You don't have to be this perfect person to come to me. You come to me exactly as you are. And I'm like, here I am again, Jesus. I'm a mess, And He's just loving.
Yeah.
So that's what's kept me alive all these years, is the love He has for me, the love I have for Him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this has been good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Finally, we got together.
I know.
So, if anybody's out there and they're in situations like this, and you're needing help, needing somebody to talk to, I'm sure you could reach out to Patience on Facebook, Patience Davis, or you could get a hold of me and I could try to get you to somebody. But whatever, don't give up. Keep reaching out, looking for help, because it is out there. There are people out there that care and want to help you. So thanks for tuning in, and keep watch for the next episode. I'm not sure who's going to be next, but I'm sure it's going to be just as good. See you later.
Hey everybody, thank you for listening to my testimony and my story and what God's done in my life. I just wanted to let everybody know that you can be set free from addiction and evil and all the things that come along with that and the struggles of life. And I just want to say that I love my mom, and I have love for everybody that was involved, and I just pray for healing for them. And I pray, my biggest prayer is that they would all be rescued and they would all find Jesus themselves. So I am by no means bashing my mother or bashing anybody from my past or anything. I have love for all of them, and how everybody just gets lost in their addiction and that kind of lifestyle. So I am not judging them or trying to make them look bad or anything, because we need to pray for the people that are sex trafficking people, that are doing the trafficking as well, because they're lost in evil just like we have been. So I just want to say that, and that I have love and forgiveness for everybody, and yeah.